Hey, hello everybody. Craig Peterson here. Man, I can't believe it's been an hour. It just goes so fast. Hey, welcome back. Of course, you'll find me here every Saturday on WGAN from 1 till 3 p.m. I also have this recorded in video. And you can see the video by going to YouTube is typically where I have it. But also you'll see it over on my website at craigpeterson.com. I do a lot of trainings. I do a lot of lives, Facebook lives, YouTube lives, pop-up trainings like I did this week, where we're talking about what you need to do right now in order to help protect yourself from the Iranian attacks that are already underway. They've been underway for a number of years now, but they've gone up over 50% this year. That is a dramatic number, and I'm sad to see that sort of thing happening, but it's going to happen. Guess what, right? So anyhow, be that as it may, it is a pleasure to be here. We have covered a lot today, and I want to get now into just the last couple of things. We've got really a big deal now. Hey, if you're a business and you have any medical records, you are covered by HIPAA. You have to comply. There are fines and all kinds of things. If you are a manufacturer who sells things to government bodies and particularly military, where on the military side they have multiple vendors, obviously, that are selling components, and you're selling these components to the military. Well, now you've probably got DFARS requirements or ITAR requirements. If you are involved in the financial business at all, you also have requirements that fall under FINRA. It just goes on, right? The courts all put every business under FRCP, the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, where you have to keep emails, you have to keep documents, you have to do all of this stuff. Are you doing it? How about GDPR that came out a couple of years ago now? Well, it's been a few years, and then last year got teeth, and they started fining companies, even small companies, very large amounts of money. Well, now we've got our friends in California. They have passed what they call the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA. And this act is really starting to cause some problems and some questions here as companies are trying to figure out, organizations, including volunteer organizations, including insurance companies, banking companies, they have to comply. This law went into effect January 1st of 2019, and then January 1st of 2020, this year, it got teeth. You had to be in compliance. And one of the provisions of this law is that if someone requests their information, what is it that you have on me? What is it that you're maintaining about me? If they request that, you have 45 days to give them all of their information, because they have to know exactly what you know about them. That doesn't seem too bad. In 45 days, you should be able to handle that, right? Well, consider California's got 30 million people in it. And what happens if a small percentage of them decides they want that information from you? Maybe they think that, hey, listen, it's going to be cool because I'll be able to make some money because under this California law, I can sue them and I can get a whole bunch of money because they have a nexus in California because they're doing business with me, or at least they're keeping my information because I visited their website. That's all it takes, visiting your website, because now you have some information about them. And then, of course, there's the right to be forgotten. But let's get rid of that 45-day thing, because that only applies until, I think it's March 1st this year. As of the second quarter of 2020, you only have 7 days to comply with a request. That is huge, and that is going to topple the IT departments of a lot of businesses. Now, the big guys, the big enterprises that have a big security staff and they have a huge compliance staff that can afford this stuff, they're already compliant with this California law because they had to comply with the European law, the GDPR, last year. So if you're complying fully with GDPR, you know what data you have on people. You know who looked at that data, including every person in your organization. Now, that's kind of new, right? GDPR doesn't even have that, as I recall. But if you have that kind of resolution, God bless you, because nobody else does. This is huge. So we immediately have some of the big guys, banks and insurance companies, who have crazy amounts of data on everybody located all over the place. Think about your business. It isn't just on your server. It might be on your phone. You might have it in the contacts. It might be on your laptop because you pulled some data to work on a spreadsheet and you took it home. You took it on the airplane. You took it on a business trip. This data can be all over the place inside a business. This is crazy, okay? Now, here's who the law applies to. A business is subject to the CCPA, this California Consumer Privacy Act, if it generates gross revenue of at least $25 million. So if you only make $5 million, you don't have to comply. It's $25 million is where it kicks in. If you annually buy, receive, sell, or share personally identifiable information of 50,000 or more California residents, okay? So in other words, if you are an information broker, if you are selling stuff on the internet, you might have that. And how are you going to know if the California residents, unless you've been keeping tabs on that, right? Or you have to comply if you derive at least half of your annual revenue from selling residents' personal data. So obviously it's aimed at companies like Google and Facebook, but in reality, this law means that you, as a smaller business, may get nailed by this. What happens if you're an information broker and you only have a couple of employees and you have specific type of information on people that are interested in buying these types of shoes, and that's what you deal in? You're a list broker. Well, you have to comply with this California law. This is absolutely crazy here. And if you're compliant with the European law, this isn't such a big stretch, but most companies aren't. Business is going to have to start from scratch. It's already in effect. We're just going to get nailed by this. Frankly, I was warning about it last year, but do you know anybody that's taking this into consideration? It ensures someone's responsible for data privacy. You have to have a data privacy officer or third party tasked with making sure various teams are doing what they need to do, et cetera, et cetera. Multi-pronged approach. And this is something I've been doing for companies on a consulting basis, looking at the data privacy laws, looking at how everything's structured. In fact, we're heading off to New York here to do a deep dive into the IT systems of a company and look at it from not only the California law, this new California law, but also because of the federal regulations that are in place governing what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing. So this is kind of interesting. Major companies, including Microsoft and Mozilla, are extending compliance to everyone in the U.S. Again, remember, 50,000 people in California, but do you know who on your list is actually from California, right? Most companies don't. This is going to be very, very difficult. They're also going to be deleting telemetry data from the browsers. This goes on and off, right? These big data stores. Remember, you got to keep track of who has looked at the data, not just who you sold that data to. The larger the company, the bigger this problem is. And I want, before we go out here, I want to point out one other thing, and this is insider threat programs. This is a bigger deal than I think most people are aware of. we've got to be careful. Bottom line, how are we going to deal with this? How are we going to know what sort of things we should be doing when it comes to insiders and insider threats? We're talking, when we're talking about insider threats, we're talking about the sales guy that might take off with your client list, because now that's an insider threat. It used to be bad enough because they try and poach your clients from you because the sales guy took your information or the engineer took your information. Now, if that sales guy takes personal data, which is the information they're going to need in their new sales job, you've now got responsibilities under this California data protection law. You need to know where the data is, who has the data, where did it go, or you're going to get fined. So insider threats are huge now. It's getting worse. An insider threat report published by Crowd Research Partners found that while 86% of organizations had started creating an insider threat program, most were still developing the policies and programs, and only a third of all companies considered their insider threat program to be mature. And I think they're lying, most of them, okay? But that's part of what I have when, if you buy one of my packages, is all of your employee handbook stuff for everything dealing with data and insider threats, et cetera, okay? Forrester Research has a whole bunch of stuff on this as well. Well, today we covered just a ton of stuff. We started out with, of course, our misery index. There we go. I pulled it up behind me. Those people involved in cybersecurity, things are a lot worse than most people think. And then we went into our old networks, and frankly, we need new tricks for those networks. We can no longer just let it idle by and say, everything will be fine. Businesses who are unclouding, we covered. Iran hacking, industrial control systems, and quite a few other things, in fact. So we can't get to them all today, but you can watch all of the video. You can see me. You can see my scenes behind me, the screenshots and everything by going to craigpeterson.com. Make sure you sign up for my mailing list, craigpeterson.com/subscribe. We've got more trainings coming up, more free stuff. We've got to get this information out. And thanks for listening on WGAN and online. And for those watching here on video, thanks to all you guys as well. And by all means, give me a thumbs up or a like or subscribe, follow me wherever you're watching. I'd really appreciate it, because this is a lot more work to do the video, but I'm glad to do it if it's getting the message out. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.